The night Chloe called it a quiet dinner, I should have known her voice held a hint of trouble. It wasn't loud, but it carried a pressure I'd learned to recognize over the years. Still, she was my daughter, so I chose to trust her. I put on my coat, grabbed my handbag, and stepped outside expecting nothing more than a routine meal with my child and her husband. I realized how wrong I was the moment their oversized SUV rolled into the parking lot. Doors opened from every direction, and people poured out like passengers on a packed bus. Not 4 people. Not 6. 22. Every seat filled, every person dressed like they hadn't eaten all day, every face brimming with expectation. Cousins, in-laws, extended family I'd never met, and a few I suspected were just acquaintances tagging along for free food. They swarmed the entrance before I could even greet Chloe. My stomach tightened, but I stayed calm. Chloe didn't look embarrassed. She didn't even offer an explanation. She walked past me, gave a tiny shrug, and said, "They're joining us." Her tone wasn't nervous. It wasn't excited. It was the tone of someone who had already decided I would accept whatever she brought to my doorstep. I followed them inside, wondering how a simple dinner had become a full parade. Once seated, the table turned into a display of expensive choices. Steaks, seafood, premium wine, endless appetizers. Everyone ordered like the meal had no limit. I watched plate after plate land on the table. Chloe didn't check with me. She didn't pull me aside. She acted like this was normal, like I had agreed to host a feast for nearly 24 strangers. I kept quiet, hoping there was a misunderstanding or a moment coming when she'd lean over and whisper, "Don't worry, Mom, we've got this." That moment never came. When the bill arrived, thick, folded, and heavy enough to hold bad news, Chloe grabbed it first. She scanned the total, nodded as if everything made perfect sense, and then slid the check across the table. Her voice was smooth and cold when she said, "You pay. We'll wait." The entire group fell silent, watching me, expecting me to take responsibility for their choices. The number stared back at me. $10,000. A meal that cost more than some people's cars. Chloe didn't blink. She acted like this was routine. I felt the weight of every eye in that room pressing against me. Chloe didn't ask. She didn't question whether I could handle such a blow. She didn't consider what that kind of money meant to me. She simply assumed my love for her meant I'd sacrifice anything, even when her request was unfair. Something changed in that moment. Not a loud change. A quiet, solid shift in my chest that told me I wasn't going to let this slide. I set the bill down gently. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't crack. I looked at my daughter, not the child I raised, but the woman she had become, and understood something clear as day. If I paid for this, she would keep using me until I had nothing left. If I refused, she'd learn a lesson that had been overdue for years. What I did next didn't just bring the dinner to a halt. It reshaped the future she thought she had secured. Choices have consequences, and Chloe was about to face hers in a way she never expected. I didn't need to raise my voice or make a scene. I just needed to make one decision that would change the direction of her comfortable life permanently. Before I tell you how I turned the tables that night, before I reveal the exact move that sent shockwaves through her entire household, make sure you subscribe now. One day you might be the only person in your family who notices trouble before it lands in your lap. And if you choose not to subscribe, at least leave a comment explaining why you'd ignore a warning that could protect you from the same kind of betrayal. The table buzzed with chatter as if nothing unusual had happened. Chloe's husband laughed with his cousins, some of them already taking leftovers to go, while others snapped photos of their plates like they were showcasing trophies. Not one person paused to consider how outrageous the situation was. They treated the entire event like a victory lap, confident I would absorb the blow without a single complaint. After all, I had been the dependable one for years, the person who reached into her purse whenever they fell short. They counted on that side of me. They never once considered I might have limits. Chloe leaned back in her chair, arms folded, wearing a smirk that made my chest tighten. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask if the total was too much. She didn't even check if I understood why the bill was shoved my way without warning. She simply assumed compliance. For her, this was routine. Create a mess, hand it off, walk away clean. My silence was her safety net. She believed she still had that privilege. I studied the people around the table. Most of them couldn't even look at me. A few stared at their phones. Others pretended to be lost in conversation. Only 2 of them made eye contact, and even they dropped their gaze quickly, ashamed of the part they played but not enough to stand up for me. The insult wasn't just the cost, it was the expectation. They didn't care what $10,000 meant to me. They just wanted the night to end in their favor. I stayed calm. Years of dealing with difficult situations had taught me how to keep my expression steady even when my stomach churned. But inside, I felt something settle into place. A certainty that this moment would become the last time they ever treated me this way. They didn't know it yet, but the comfort they enjoyed at my expense was about to vanish. Chloe whispered something to her husband, and they both laughed under their breath. The sound wasn't loud, but it was sharp enough to cut. It told me everything I needed to know. She knew she was wrong, but she also thought she had control over me. She counted on guilt to keep me quiet. She believed her title as my daughter gave her the authority to dismiss my feelings. She was about to learn how mistaken she was. When the server approached again, Chloe waved him off like she owned the place. "My mom's handling it," she said, her voice carrying just enough force to make the table fall silent again. I could feel the server's discomfort as he placed the leather folder in front of me a second time. Even he knew something wasn't right. Still, everyone sat there waiting for me to fold. I didn't touch the check. Not yet. Instead, I looked at Chloe and asked softly, "Is this really how you treat someone who's helped you your entire life?" My question wasn't loud, but it cut through the room with more force than shouting ever could. A few heads lifted. Some of them shifted awkwardly in their seats. Chloe stiffened, clearly unprepared for any resistance. She rolled her eyes. "Mom, stop being dramatic. You know you can afford it. It's just dinner." Just dinner. Those 2 words dug deeper than the bill itself. She had no idea what it took for me to build the life she now took for granted. She had no idea what sacrifices I made so she could grow up without shortages. She didn't remember the nights I stayed up dealing with her problems, or the times I bailed them out of their own poor decisions. In her mind, I was a bottomless resource. I straightened my posture and let the silence stretch long enough for them to feel it. I wasn't angry. Anger can fade. What I felt was a decision hardening inside me. They had crossed a line that could never be crossed twice. I finally picked up the check, opened it, and let my eyes rest on the total again. $10,000. Not as a gift. Not out of appreciation. But as an expectation from people who viewed me as a wallet, not a person. I closed the folder slowly and placed it back on the table. That was the moment I chose to stop letting them treat me as an endless source of comfort. The decision didn't come from spite. It came from survival. If I didn't set boundaries here, they would eventually push me into ruin without blinking. Chloe didn't realize I had already resolved to protect myself, no matter how she reacted. She thought she had cornered me. She had no idea I was planning the move that would flip her entire world. Chloe's phone call had sounded innocent enough. Her voice, light and careful, promised simplicity. "Mom, just a quiet dinner. No kids, no in-laws. Just us. My treat. Pick you up at 6. I wanted to believe her. After all, there were times she had genuinely meant what she said. I pictured the night as a calm one, a chance to catch up with my daughter without chaos or interruption. I set my sapphire dress aside the night before, ironed it carefully, and even polished the small earrings my late husband had given me. I allowed myself a moment of pleasure, imagining a peaceful evening filled with conversation and laughter. When the SUV arrived, I should have recognized the warning signs. Its enormous black frame dominated the driveway like a looming shadow. One door opened, then another, and then another. Out poured familiar faces and many I had never met. The group was large, restless, and hungry, moving toward me like they had rehearsed this moment. 22 people in all. 22 pairs of eyes measuring me, evaluating my reaction, expecting the same silent acquiescence I had always given. Chloe didn't introduce anyone. She didn't apologize for the number of people or for the audacity of the situation. Instead, she smiled, the practiced, charming smile she used when she wanted to charm someone into compliance. Surprise, Mom. We decided to make it a family night. Declan's entire family wanted to meet the most generous woman we know. Generous. Her words landed like a slap. She had taken the one thing I prided myself on, my independence, and wrapped it in a lie, making it sound like gratitude when it was manipulation. I swallowed hard and kept my composure, stepping toward the SUV with my handbag in hand. The air inside was thick with the smell of perfumes, aftershaves, and the faint hint of overconfidence. Cousins elbowed one another playfully, laughter bouncing off the polished walls. Declan, seated next to Chloe, gave me a small nod, as if to say, "Don't worry. She'll handle it." That glance carried the arrogance of someone who believed my love for my daughter meant unconditional financial support. As we entered the Gold Leaf, I realized this quiet dinner had transformed into a full-blown spectacle. The private dining room awaited, its soft lighting designed to impress, and the white linen tables gleamed under the chandelier's glow. Every chair was taken. Every person had an expectation. The waitstaff, poised and professional, exchanged glances when the Stones began directing them before even taking a menu. I noticed the subtle tension in the air, the kind that comes when a group believes they are entitled to everything they see. Chloe's tone shifted again. The sweetness I had heard over the phone disappeared, replaced by an assuredness that I would pay for this evening without question. She leaned in just enough for me to hear her whisper, "Don't worry, Mom. Declan got a little bonus. It's fine. Relax. You deserve a night out." Her words were meant to calm, but the timing, the look in her eyes, revealed the truth. She was manipulating me. I understood, with sudden clarity, that this wasn't about catching up. It wasn't about family or love. This was about control, about pushing boundaries I had always allowed her to test. The Stones began ordering. Wines flown in from distant vineyards. Appetizers meant for entire tables. Lobster towers, prime steaks, and desserts I had never seen outside of magazines. Their voices rose, not in conversation, but in demands, complaints, and instructions. One cousin waved a phone, reading the menu with the flashlight function, as if the prices didn't matter and the meal had no ceiling. Declan laughed along with them, giving a polite nod to the staff but never stepping in. Chloe's eyes flicked to mine, a glance meant to reassure herself, not me. She believed I would approve of every extravagant choice, every indulgent request. I sat quietly, letting the scene unfold, my mind already racing through possibilities. Every order they placed, every extravagant dish, every frivolous glass of wine added weight to what was coming. I could feel the pull of expectation. I could feel their reliance on my tolerance, their confidence that I would pay, and that my life experience, my careful planning, my prudence, would bend under pressure. And I realized, in that moment, that I would not bend. This quiet dinner was a mistake for them, but it was a turning point for me. Every smile, every laugh, every empty toast filled me with resolve. I had raised my daughter, nurtured her, provided for her when she needed support, and now, I would teach her that entitlement had limits. The rest of the night would be a lesson they would not forget, and it would begin the moment the check was placed in front of me. Before I reveal what happened when the total came, and how I turned the situation entirely in my favor, make sure you subscribe. One day, you might be the only person in your family who can prevent a disaster before it happens. And if you choose not to subscribe, at least leave a comment explaining why you would ignore a warning that could protect you from betrayal in your own life. As we were seated, the full extent of their plan became clear. The private dining room, meant for an intimate evening, was instantly transformed into their personal arena. Cousins elbowed each other, laughing over jokes I didn't understand. Some took photos, posting them online mid-meal, as if they had already claimed the night as their victory. Waiters moved cautiously, carrying tray after tray of extravagant orders, their professionalism tested by the relentless demands. The Stones acted as if the restaurant existed solely for their amusement. Chloe leaned in, whispering to Declan, and they shared a quiet laugh that carried no warmth. I understood immediately. This wasn't about food, or family bonding, or even celebration. This was a show designed to overwhelm me, to stretch my patience and finances to the breaking point. Each course ordered was a calculated escalation. They wanted to see how far they could go before I refused. I watched, quietly taking note of each indulgence. The imported wines, the shellfish towers, the endless bread baskets. Their confidence that I would comply was palpable. Declan, seated to Chloe's right, barely glanced at me. He had learned long ago to rely on my generosity, on the assumption that I would absorb whatever chaos they created. His laughter was polite but calculated, a way of signaling the group that the mother-in-law would cover their extravagance. I realized then that I wasn't just dealing with 22 entitled relatives. I was facing a coordinated test of my limits, executed with the precision of people who had done this before. The waitstaff approached with menus and recommendations, and the Stones dismissed everything politely but firmly, demanding upgrades, substitutions, and additions. They treated the night as a buffet without cost, a game where the goal was consumption, not experience. The manager approached twice, subtly signaling concern, but each time Chloe waved him away. "Mom's handling it," she said, her tone clipped yet casual. I sipped my inexpensive wine, taking careful mental notes of every item ordered. My body remained calm, but my mind was alive with strategy. This was the moment I had anticipated, though not in this exact scenario. Their confidence gave me leverage. Their reliance on my compliance made them vulnerable. I had allowed them too much power for too long, and this would be the night that shifted the balance. Chloe's voice was deceptively sweet as she praised the waiter. "Thank you for accommodating us. Mom will take care of it." She had no idea that her words were confirming everything I needed to execute my plan. I let her talk, let her orchestrate the evening, because the louder they made themselves, the more the outcome would sting. I observed each relative, noting their greed, their sense of entitlement, their unspoken expectation that I would pay. I saw the smug satisfaction on Dolores's face as she ordered the wagyu for herself, oblivious to the cost. I watched Barnaby toss back the lobster tower and then order the entire rack of lamb, as if calories had no connection to finance. Each action, each choice, only confirmed what I had long suspected. The Stones were incapable of self-restraint, incapable of respect, and entirely dependent on my previous tolerance. Time passed slowly, the hours stretching like a warning. Glasses were refilled, dishes arrived and were abandoned, conversations became louder, laughter more forced. I remained calm, silent but fully present. Each order, each indulgence, only sharpened my resolve. By the time the dessert menus arrived, I knew the night was ready to reach its climax. I had watched them, I had noted every movement, every glimmer of entitlement, and I had calculated my response down to the exact moment. When the final wine bottle was opened, and the last plate of extravagant food was set before them, Chloe leaned back, confident, satisfied. She believed she had achieved her goal, to extract from me an immediate, unquestioned payment. She had underestimated one factor. I no longer saw the meal as a loss. I saw it as an opportunity, and I was ready to teach a lesson that would echo far beyond that restaurant, reaching into every assumption they had about their power over me. Before I reveal how I transformed their night of indulgence into a financial reckoning, make sure you subscribe now. One day, you might be the only person in your family who notices disaster before it lands. And if you don't subscribe, leave a comment explaining why you'd ignore a warning that could prevent betrayal of your own. The end of the meal arrived like a slow drumbeat, each course stacking on top of the last until the table resembled a battlefield of excess. Empty plates, crumpled napkins, and the faint scent of truffles lingered in the air. Conversations had lulled, and a subtle tension settled over the group. It was then that the waiter approached with the leather-bound check folder, placing it directly in front of me with the kind of hesitation reserved for situations that could explode at any second. Chloe's voice changed immediately. The warmth and charm she had used all evening disappeared, replaced by the commanding tone she used when she believed she had complete authority. "Okay, Mom," she said, leaning in just enough for only me to hear. "Here it is. You pay." She tossed the folder back toward me with a casual authority, as if the act itself required no discussion. "We'll wait in the car. It's getting late." I stared at her, stunned for a moment by the audacity. The folder landed neatly on the table, but its contents screamed betrayal. The total stared back at me, bold and unmistakable. $10,147.55. I felt the weight of it immediately, not just in dollars, but in the years of trust and expectation it represented. The room fell into a kind of anticipatory silence. Every relative around me watched intently, expecting the familiar submission I had shown in the past. Chloe's expression was imperious. She believed she had cornered me. Her voice held no apology, no hesitation, just the cold certainty of someone who assumed entitlement. The Stones, too, looked on eagerly. Some smiled, anticipating the spectacle of my financial discomfort. Others avoided eye contact, a flicker of doubt passing across their faces. Declan sat rigid, half proud, half anxious, but confident that I would bend to the familiar pattern of parental generosity. I picked up the folder slowly, my hand steady. I let my eyes trace each line item, noting the extravagance, the waste, the unnecessary indulgence. Imported wines, shellfish towers, truffles, racks of lamb. It was a ledger of entitlement. I didn't react outwardly. I didn't scold. I didn't shout. I simply allowed the room to feel the weight of their expectations pressing down, waiting for the response they assumed was coming. Chloe leaned in again, her tone softening slightly as she tried to reclaim control. "It's fine, Mom. Don't worry about it. We just wanted a special night. It's really not that much." Her words fell flat. The room seemed to hold its collective breath, sensing the subtle shift in energy. Something had changed, though she didn't know it yet. Her confidence was about to meet its first real test. I let a quiet moment pass before speaking, my voice calm but firm. "Is this how you treat someone who has spent years providing, supporting, and protecting your family?" The question wasn't loud, but it carried enough gravity to make several relatives shift uncomfortably in their seats. Chloe froze, her practiced ease faltering. Declan's smugness began to crack. Even Dolores's laugh, so often loud and dismissive, softened for the first time that evening. I could see the realization forming, slowly, like a dawn breaking across their faces. They had miscalculated, assuming that this simple act of handing over the check would end the night and reinforce the old pattern. They had assumed I would react emotionally, perhaps with anger or embarrassment, and immediately comply. They had underestimated the clarity that comes from years of experience, from learning where boundaries must be drawn. This was the moment I had been preparing for, though not in words I could share aloud. They didn't know that the folder in front of me wasn't just a bill. It was a mirror reflecting their own greed and recklessness. Their expectation of power over me was about to collide with the reality of consequence. I allowed the folder to rest on the table for a moment longer. Each relative's eyes flicked nervously between me, the folder, and each other. I could feel the first stirrings of panic begin to rise in Chloe, the tremor in her composure. The confidence that had carried her through decades of subtle manipulations now met the calm, unyielding certainty of a woman who had reached her limit. And then, as I folded the folder and placed it neatly aside, I whispered, almost to myself, "You assumed you could control me. You assumed I would absorb this without question. You were wrong." The room fell into stunned silence. Eyes widened, mouths opened slightly, as if seeking words that wouldn't come. Chloe's commanding tone had vanished. Declan's posture straightened, defensive but unsure. Every stone in that room suddenly realized that the night had shifted. What they thought would be a simple transaction of entitlement had become something far more complicated, and they had no idea what was coming next. Before I reveal the exact way I turned their greed into a lesson they would never forget, make sure you subscribe. One day, you might be the only person in your family who sees the disaster before it strikes. And if you choose not to subscribe, At least leave a comment explaining why you would ignore a warning that could protect you from betrayal like this. I set the folder aside and sat back for a moment, letting the gravity of the evening settle over the room. The Stones believed the night had ended with me reluctantly opening my wallet. They didn't know that their assumptions had just sealed their own fate. Calmly, I reached into my handbag, the familiar weight of my modest essentials grounding me. Inside were no immediate solutions in cash, no checkbook, no credit cards of my own. Instead, I had something far more precise. A plan honed over decades of watching patterns, predicting behaviors, and preparing contingencies for those who believed they could take without consequence. I pulled out my phone first, casually scrolling as though responding to a minor message. In reality, I was opening the files I had prepared days earlier. A legal revocation of Chloe's life insurance policy, digital statements of her brokerage account, and the final documents for transferring their savings under strict oversight. I looked at the Stones in turn. Their chatter faded, curiosity peaked, tension growing as they realized I wasn't reaching for a simple wallet. My calm demeanor was unsettling, so different from the panic they expected. "Mr. Peterson, Chef Guillermo," I said, addressing the manager and head chef, who had been watching me warily since the check arrived. "I want to ensure the restaurant is fully compensated for tonight. The service has been exceptional under impossible circumstances, and the food, despite being treated carelessly by some guests, was flawless. You deserve to be paid." The manager blinked, cautious. "Of course, Mrs. Vance. I will not be paying in the usual way," I interrupted, my voice steady. "Not with my money." Their confusion was evident. Chloe's eyes narrowed slightly, and Declan's posture shifted. The room suddenly felt heavy, like everyone had sensed the first hint of a storm. I held up my phone and displayed the files. "This evening," my daughter said, "you pay, we'll wait in the car." She assumed it meant I would hand over my funds. I have chosen a different interpretation. The subtle shift in my tone, calm yet unyielding, drew a collective breath from the table. The Stones were no longer simply observing. They were realizing they had miscalculated. I explained briefly that the life insurance policy I had maintained for Chloe had been revoked, and that the brokerage account I had once set up for her and Declan had been liquidated. The balance remaining in their joint savings account, a mere $1,892.11, was already being redirected as a down payment on tonight's bill. The Stones' faces flickered through shock, disbelief, and finally panic. Then came the final piece. I reached into my handbag once more and produced 2 credit cards, Chloe's and Declan's, quietly retrieved earlier in the evening while their attention was elsewhere. Handing them to Mr. Peterson, I said simply, "Please process the remaining balance of the bill using these cards. Max them out if necessary. Decline notifications should be sent directly to their phones with a note, 'Enjoy the car.'" The room froze. 22 people, collectively stunned, couldn't grasp the unfolding reality. Declan's hand twitched toward his phone, but it was too late. The first declines had already begun pinging in rapid succession. I watched, expression calm, as the manager and chef executed the instructions with deliberate precision. Every transaction brought a new flinch, a new realization. Their entitlement had just collided with consequence. Chloe's eyes widened, panic overtaking the carefully curated confidence she had carried all evening. Declan's face drained of color, and the other Stones fidgeted, muttering to one another as each notification arrived. I didn't speak. There was no need. The silence was filled with the sound of financial reckoning. Each ping of decline a testament to choices made, boundaries crossed, and expectations shattered. I stood slowly, smoothing my dress, projecting calm authority. "You pay, we wait in the car," I repeated, my voice firm. "I have ensured that you did exactly that. You waited. You now pay, but the payment is no longer on me. It is on you. The choices you made tonight, unchecked, indulgent, reckless, have led directly to this moment." Declan lunged, shouting, "This is insane. This is our credit, our life." I shook my head, pitying the entitled adults they had become. "Your life was safeguarded by precautions you ignored, and tonight, Those safeguards have been redirected to match your actions. You assumed I would absorb the cost. You assumed compliance. You assumed generosity without limit. You were wrong. The Stones, 22 strong, sat in stunned silence, realizing the full magnitude of what had just happened. The entire dynamic of their night, their control, and their financial freedom had shifted. I walked out of the Gold Leaf, leaving the receipts carefully compiled on the table, letting them read and absorb the reality. Outside, the black SUV waited, lights on, engine idling. Inside, panic rippled through the clan as they absorbed the consequences of their greed. Before I reveal what happened as they sat in that SUV, grappling with their empty accounts, make sure you subscribe now. One day, you might be the only person in your family who sees the disaster coming. And if you don't subscribe, leave a comment telling us why you would ignore a warning that could save you from the same kind of betrayal. The cool Arizona night greeted me as I stepped out of the Gold Leaf, my heels clicking lightly on the marble floor. The massive black SUV waited near the valet stand, engine humming, lights on, interior glowing just enough to reveal 22 faces frozen in disbelief. Chloe and Declan sat up front, the others cramped in the back, all eyes glued to their phones. The pings, the alerts, the warnings, they were relentless, each notification a sharp reminder of the consequences that had arrived faster than any of them could have anticipated. I paused for a moment, adjusting my sapphire blue dress, letting the full impact of the night settle on them. The SUV was a cage now, one of their own making, filled with the soundless weight of panic. I could see it clearly. Chloe's hands shook as she tried to silence her phone, Declan's jaw tightened, and even Dolores, who often wielded her loud voice with authority, sat with wide eyes, struggling to comprehend the chain reaction they had triggered themselves. "Mom, what did you do?" Chloe finally shrieked, leaning out of the passenger door, her carefully curated composure gone. The red notifications on her phone illuminated her panic. "How did this happen? Our cards. The bill. It's $10,000. You couldn't have." I held up the receipts, crisp and meticulously organized, letting them flutter once over the hood of the SUV like unwelcome confetti. The sound caught their attention, and they all leaned forward as if trying to catch meaning in a physical gesture. "You pay, we wait in the car," I said, repeating her words back to her. "I paid, Chloe. And now you owe the bank, your creditors, and your own accounts." The dinner was not just $10,000. Tonight, you have spent the entirety of your financial cushion, recklessly accumulated over years, on yourselves. And this is the lesson. Declan's face went pale. "This is criminal. You can't." "Go ahead and call the police," I interrupted calmly, glancing over my shoulder. "They will only confirm exactly what you already know. You are fully responsible for this debt." Chloe scrambled, her phone in hand, fingers trembling as she tried to undo what had already been done. Every failed transaction alert made her body jerk slightly in disbelief. The back seat murmurs turned to whispers, then gasps, as each relative realized that the financial reckoning was immediate and absolute. There were no exceptions, no rescues, no excuses. Their own choices had led to this moment. I stepped closer to the SUV, offering a final, steadying look at each face, letting the enormity of the situation sink in. "Your entitlement has consequences. You treated the night as a playground, expecting me to cover your indulgence without question. Tonight proved that assumption wrong. Every alert, every notification, every message of a declined card is a reflection of the choices you made." The Stones were silent now. 22 adults, packed into a luxury vehicle, all consumed by the realization that their financial safety net, the one they had assumed would be endless, had vanished in a single evening. There was fear in their eyes, not of me, but of the truth. The truth of responsibility. The cost of indulgence without foresight. I watched Chloe's hands tighten around her phone. Declan's shoulders slumped. Dolores finally spoke, her voice trembling. "This isn't fair. She can't do this." I shook my head slowly, my expression calm. "Fairness is earned, Dolores. Tonight, every single one of you learned that no one is obligated to subsidize recklessness. You all acted as though consequences belonged to someone else. Now you see they belong to you. I walked past the SUV and into the cool night air, the smell of the desert brushing against my skin. My Uber had arrived, and I slipped inside, glancing back only once. Inside that vehicle, chaos reigned. Phones buzzed incessantly, cards declined, alerts piling up like a chorus of reprimands. For the first time in years, they were experiencing the discomfort of reality, fully, immediately, and personally. The engine of the SUV roared as they finally tried to leave. The lights disappeared into the distance, but the lesson remained imprinted on each of them. Every gluttonous order, every careless glance, every expectation of unearned generosity had been repaid in full, in the form they could not deny. As I drove away, looking back at the now silent, dark shape of the SUV, I felt a wave of relief and satisfaction. No money of mine had been lost. No dignity had been compromised. The only debt that remained was theirs, a debt of awareness, humility, and accountability. Before I move on to what happened in the aftermath, make sure you subscribe. You never know when your family might push boundaries you can't ignore. If you don't subscribe, drop a comment explaining why you'd ignore a warning that could protect you from facing consequences just like the Stones did tonight. The drive home was quiet, the streets of Scottsdale bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. My Uber hummed along the avenues, a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind. For the first time in years, the night felt truly mine. There was no expectation, no clamor, no sense of being on call for entitlement disguised as family love. The experience was oddly cleansing, the weight of their greed now resting fully on their shoulders instead of mine. I replayed the evening in my mind, the moments etched vividly. The promise of a quiet dinner, the packed SUV with 22 expectant faces, the slow, deliberate toss of the folder containing $10,147.55, Chloe's transformation from a loving daughter to a commanding figure of entitlement, and the precise, calm execution of the plan that turned their expectations upside down. Each memory carried its own lesson, and I savored the satisfaction that came not from revenge, but from justice, an education they would not soon forget. Chloe and Declan had underestimated me, and that was their first mistake. Their assumption that I would absorb the cost, comply, or feel shame was not just misguided, it was arrogant. Over the past few years, their pattern had been clear. Debts left unpaid, loans asked for and forgotten, and a constant expectation that my comfort and resources were theirs to command. I had long tolerated their carelessness in smaller doses, helping with the grandchildren, sharing meals, and offering advice. But the pattern had become brazen, unchecked, and unsustainable. Tonight's dinner crystallized it in a way that could not be ignored or dismissed. I pictured them sitting in the SUV afterward, the alerts flooding their phones, their hearts sinking as each notification confirmed the depletion of their accounts. The sense of panic, the realization of their recklessness, the sharp sting of immediate consequences, all were lessons no lecture or reprimand could have conveyed with the same clarity. In my mind, I could see Chloe's hands trembling over her phone, Declan's jaw tight, Dolores murmuring complaints she knew would go unheard. Every relative, compacted together in that vehicle, had just experienced the tangible cost of greed and entitlement. And yet, I did not gloat. My satisfaction was quiet, tempered, grounded in the understanding that the real victory was learning. These were adults who had been given a lifetime of support, who had been guided, nudged, and cautioned repeatedly, and now they would face reality on their own terms. They had created their own reckoning, and I merely facilitated the lesson in the cleanest way possible, without anger, without malice, without a single cent of my own being risked. Returning to my home, I felt the peace of being in control of my life and my resources. The garden was silent, the house still, and the evening air carried the faint scent of desert sage. I reflected on the power of preparation, foresight, and the courage to enforce boundaries. For years, I had been careful, vigilant, and strategic, not because I feared my family, but because I respected myself. Tonight, all of that vigilance had culminated in an elegant, decisive outcome. Chloe and Declan would never forget this night. It would linger in their memories as the evening when their assumptions collided with reality. Every extravagant habit, every careless choice, every reliance on my resources would be recalled with a mixture of fear, shame, and the reluctant understanding that their actions had consequences. The Stones, as a family, had experienced the tangible cost of indulgence unchecked, and their respect, or at least their awareness, had been recalibrated. I allowed myself a small smile, knowing that the grandchildren, Jasper and Phoebe, were safe from this reckless behavior through no action of their own. They would not bear the weight of their parents' mistakes. My role as a grandmother, as a guide and protector, had been upheld with integrity. The lesson was delivered, the boundaries enforced, and the family forced to confront the consequences of their choices. In the quiet of my home, I settled into my favorite chair with a cup of tea, reflecting on the night's events. The chaos of the dinner had given way to clarity, and the tension had transformed into a lasting lesson. Sometimes, the most powerful actions are not loud or violent. They are precise, intentional, and grounded in the authority of experience. Tonight, I had exercised that authority fully, ensuring that those who sought to take without regard would face the reality of their choices. Before I finish this story, one last note. If you have not subscribed yet, do so now. Life will often place you in situations where someone's recklessness could directly impact you. Don't wait to learn the hard way. Subscribe and be prepared. And if you choose not to subscribe, leave a comment explaining why you would ignore a warning that could save you from a betrayal just like the one Chloe and Declan orchestrated tonight. The air outside the Gold Leaf felt unusually still as I turned toward the SUV. The night was cool, the desert breeze brushing lightly against my face, but the atmosphere around the massive vehicle was anything but calm. Chloe and Declan were first to speak, their voices raised and shaking, a mixture of panic and anger spilling into the quiet night. Eleanor, this isn't over. You can't just do this to us. Call the police, call anyone. Declan's words stumbled as he searched for some authority to back his outrage, while Chloe's hands clutched her phone, attempting to find a way to reverse what had already happened. The Stones were mounting a chorus of complaints and accusations, each louder than the last, their entitlement and panic merging into a single, chaotic roar. Dolores leaned forward, pointing a finger, her face flushed with indignation. You're committing theft. This is criminal. Do you realize what you've done? We could have you arrested. I raised a hand slowly, not in anger, but to command their attention. Enough, I said, my voice calm but carrying a weight that made even the loudest of them falter mid-shout. Every face turned toward me, some flushed with rage, some pale with sudden realization, all watching for a moment of weakness that simply wasn't there. You are all welcome to call the police, I continued, stepping closer to the vehicle. And when they arrive, they will review the facts. The facts are simple. This bill, totaling $10,147.55, was not mine to pay. You all assumed I would cover it. That assumption, that expectation, is the source of your panic. Legally, the responsibility belongs to you. A collective gasp rose from the SUV. Even Chloe, whose face had been a mask of entitlement moments ago, now betrayed confusion and fear. No, that can't be right. I thought, Mom, you can't just. I held up my hand, letting my words hang in the air, measured and precise. The assumption that I would pay does not create liability on my part. All documentation, all notices, all legal rights are in order. Every transaction you witnessed tonight, every decline notification, every alert of insufficient funds, is a reflection of choices you made and control you relinquished. If the police are called, they will see that the responsibility for this debt has never been mine. It has always belonged to you. The Stones squirmed, shifting in the cramped space, glances darting between each other. Their faces betrayed disbelief, the edges of anger mingling with the cold realization that they had miscalculated. They had prepared for confrontation, for shock, for perhaps a bit of maternal guilt, but not for legal clarity delivered with calm authority. Dolores tried again, her voice sharp, though tinged with doubt. You can't just. What about the cards? That's illegal. I gave a small, deliberate nod. Everything I have done tonight is well within the boundaries of law and reason. The cards you authorized in the past for specific uses are now being applied to a debt incurred entirely by your actions. This is not theft. This is enforcement of responsibility. The SUV went silent. 22 faces, packed shoulder to shoulder, stared at me with mounting panic. They had been waiting for me to falter, for hesitation, for an emotional slip they could exploit. But I remained composed, every step, every word measured and intentional. The silence was suffocating, a weight that pressed into the vehicle and settled over the group. I could sense the tension building, the realization dawning collectively. The night had not ended as they expected, and the control they thought they wielded over me was gone. I took a step back, my eyes sweeping across the cluster of stunned faces. Chloe's hand still gripped her phone, Declan's shoulders slumped, and Dolores, along with the rest of the stones, seemed frozen, caught between outrage and comprehension. "You see," I said softly, almost conversationally, "there is no threat here. There is no crime committed against you. There is only accountability. And that accountability has consequences you now must face." For a long moment, no one moved. The SUV felt like a cage of their own making, their collective expectation of an easy evening shattered into fragments that littered the car like broken glass. Every alert pinged insistently in the background, each failure of their accounts adding to the suffocating realization of their errors. They had expected a confrontation fueled by guilt or hesitation, and instead, they found precision, legality, and calm resolve. I finally stepped away, the soft crunch of my heels on the pavement a subtle counterpoint to the tension still vibrating in the SUV. 22 angry, stunned relatives were left behind, trapped in a silence that pressed in from every direction. Their entitlement, once boisterous and confident, had been replaced by the heavy awareness that the control they assumed they held was an illusion. As I walked toward the waiting Uber, I allowed myself a small, quiet smile. Tonight was a lesson they would not forget, a reminder that recklessness and assumption often come with immediate consequences. They had tried to threaten, to intimidate, to leverage fear and panic, but reason, preparation, and legal clarity always outmatch chaos. Even as I settled into the car, glancing back at the dim outline of the SUV, I knew this moment would linger in their memories far longer than the taste of the food or the glint of the luxury restaurant. The night had become a reckoning, a test of boundaries and responsibility, and they had failed spectacularly. Before we move into the final reflections, remember, subscribe now. Situations like this can happen to anyone, and being unprepared can leave you powerless. If you don't subscribe, leave a comment explaining why you would ignore a warning that could prevent a betrayal just like the one Chloe and her family faced tonight. The streets of Scottsdale had quieted as I drove home, the glow of streetlights casting long, even lines across the pavement. In the rearview mirror, the SUV that had held 22 stunned, angry relatives was now a dark silhouette, its occupants swallowed by the consequences they had created. For the first time that evening, I allowed myself to exhale fully, the tension that had guided every step of the night finally dissolving. I reflected on what had just transpired. The promise of a quiet dinner had been a carefully constructed illusion, a lure designed to extract money, obedience, and indulgence. Chloe had orchestrated it, or at least, she had believed she did. Her assumptions, combined with Declan's complacency and the Stones' greed, created the perfect storm for a lesson they would never forget. And yet, the lesson was never about revenge for me. It was about accountability, boundaries, and the cost of entitlement. Sitting quietly in my home later that night, I replayed the pivotal moments. The SUV packed to the brim, Chloe tossing the bill in my direction as if expecting compliance, and the shocked expressions on the faces of those who believed they could manipulate me. Each detail underscored a simple truth. People often underestimate what they cannot control, and when someone with foresight, courage, and calm resolve steps in, consequences arrive faster than anyone anticipates. The financial outcome was clear. Chloe and Declan's cards had been maxed out, their accounts drained, and the bill that had seemed so trivial to them now became a tangible, unrelenting reminder of their recklessness. The alerts, the declined transactions, the flood of notifications, it was not punishment for punishment's sake, but an undeniable reality check. For years, They had relied on the assumption that I would cover their mistakes, absorb the costs of their overindulgence, and smooth over the chaos they created. Tonight, that assumption was shattered completely. Yet, in that quiet reflection, I also felt a deep sense of relief and empowerment. I had never sought conflict. I had only sought fairness, protection, and the ability to enforce boundaries I had set years ago. The meal, the chaos, the audacious expectation that I would foot a bill I did not incur, all of it became an opportunity to demonstrate what preparation, knowledge, and resolve can achieve. My financial safety remained intact, my peace of mind preserved, and my dignity affirmed. There is a broader lesson here, one I want every viewer to understand. Boundaries matter. Accountability matters. And the illusion of unlimited generosity often masks an expectation of exploitation. Chloe and her family assumed that my role as a mother and grandmother included financial servitude, that my compassion could be taken for granted. They discovered the hard way that respect and fairness are earned, not assumed, and that a single evening can overturn a lifetime of entitlement. I also thought about the grandchildren, Jasper and Phoebe. They remained blissfully unaware of the tension, the chaos, and the lessons unfolding among the adults. Their safety, emotional stability, and understanding of responsibility were preserved because I acted deliberately. The consequences they witnessed were tailored not to harm, but to teach. The adults, Chloe, Declan, and the Stones, were left to navigate the fallout themselves, to learn through experience what boundaries truly mean. The night left an indelible mark. Chloe and Declan would likely replay every detail over and over, analyzing each misstep, each assumption, each moment of overconfidence. The Stones would recount the evening for years, a cautionary tale about expectation, entitlement, and the reality that generosity cannot be coerced. And I, Eleanor Vance, emerged unscathed, calm, and empowered, not through anger, but through clarity, foresight, and decisive action. As the story closes, there is one final reminder to my viewers. Life often presents moments where someone else's recklessness or expectation could directly impact your well-being. Being prepared, setting boundaries, and exercising foresight is not selfish, it is necessary. And if you want to ensure you are never caught off guard, subscribe now. Don't wait until it's too late to learn the hard way. And if you decide not to subscribe, leave a comment explaining why you would ignore a warning that could prevent a disaster like the one Chloe and her family faced tonight. The quiet of the desert night embraced me as I settled into my home. No money had been lost, no dignity compromised, and no lesson left untaught. Chloe's promise of a quiet dinner had become the night of reckoning for those who assumed boundaries could be ignored. And as I poured myself a cup of tea, the realization settled fully. Sometimes, the most powerful actions are the calm, precise ones, executed with foresight, courage, and the unwavering belief that fairness and accountability always prevail. As I set down my cup of tea, the events of the evening replayed in my mind one last time. Chloe's words, so casually cruel, "You pay, we'll wait in the car," echoed with a weight they could never have imagined. 22 relatives, packed into that SUV, had left the restaurant believing the night would end in entitlement fulfilled. Instead, it ended with a lesson they could never ignore. Every choice has a consequence, and taking for granted the generosity of others can cost far more than money. It can cost trust, respect, and peace of mind. I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. There was no gloating, only clarity. The dinner was over, but the lesson would linger. Chloe and Declan would remember the shock of watching their financial security slip through their fingers in a single night. The Stones, cramped and silent in that SUV, had felt the weight of their assumptions pressing down in ways no lecture or argument could replicate. And I, Eleanor Vance, had stood firm, not out of anger, but from experience, preparation, and the quiet confidence of knowing I would not be manipulated. Now, as I reflect on that night, the truth is simple. Family can be complicated, but boundaries are sacred. Generosity is a choice, not an obligation. And when others assume they have a right to what you have earned, the most effective response is clarity, decisiveness, and a little creative strategy. They learned the hard way, and hopefully, so will others who might find themselves in similar situations. Before I let this story fade, I must ask you to consider your own life. Are you prepared for moments when someone else's recklessness could affect you? Do you have the courage to enforce boundaries when entitlement appears? If not, subscribe now, because life doesn't wait for hesitation, and sometimes, the only person who will protect you from disaster is yourself. And if you choose not to subscribe, leave a comment explaining why you would ignore a warning that could prevent a betrayal like the one Chloe and her family faced tonight. This story isn't just about money or a family dinner. It's about awareness, preparation, and knowing your worth. It's about refusing to be manipulated and understanding that sometimes, the most powerful lessons are delivered in moments of chaos when others least expect it. And while Chloe and her relatives might have thought they were teaching me a lesson, the reality is that the lesson landed firmly where it belonged, on them. As I closed my eyes that night, I felt a deep sense of peace. No money lost, no dignity compromised, and no patience stretched beyond reason. Chloe's promise of a quiet dinner had transformed into a reckoning, a vivid reminder that life rewards foresight and punishes arrogance. And as I drifted to sleep, I knew this story, like so many others, was meant to be shared, because awareness, preparation, and decisive action can protect you in ways that instinct and goodwill alone never could.